Good science, by definition, allows for more than one opinion. Otherwise, you merely have the will of one man, which is the basis of cult.
If it's not in frame, it doesn't exist.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, an illusion?
Where you been?
Drunk.
Wendy, darling, light of my life.
What is your one purpose in life?
To explode, of course.
I like death with sex. How about you, Casey? You like sex with death? Yeah, so fuck up and die.
Yeah, I every time, like, I'm thinking Western might be my favorite genre now. It's always been, like, close between that and horror, you know?
it's proximity, fool.
It is.
We just had a whole month of Western.
Well,
that's all it is.
I think
but
that's why, and this is not why I don't know why we started doing Western Month for November originally, but, like, doing just, like, crushing nothing but horror, and then just, like, having that blow off of, like, nice, smooth Westerns. You're going back to a regular schedule.
What it is?
So good.
It's kind of like,
and we've been watching, like, wintry Westerns, too. It's great.
No, yes. I actually, like, I'm like, there needs to be at least every November, we need at least 1 week of snowy Westerns.
100%.
Because that is
They're the best. They're so good.
It's so good. Like, that's literally, like,
the vibe.
What? Yeah, like, the Great Silence that we watched before, and then McCabe and Miss Miller. Those two, like, the snow is what kept me enthralled. Like, you know,
So
like, Great Silence.
Yeah,
it's a great
you're
character
so
and story, but
it's just something about, like, it not only does it just look, it takes already beautiful scenery, like, that is akin to the Western, because, like, obviously so many Westerns are, like, the sun-blasted desert, but it, like, takes that and makes it, like, the beautiful snowy whiteness, and it's usually in the mountains, too, which is, like, but it's, like, it's just adds that extra level of frontier life, the hardness of frontier life, because being
that's what it is. It's like
a frontier in the Old West in the snow sounds so brutal.
Dude,
like,
the oppressive heat of the desert life it's brutal. Like, it is, but there's so much more opportunity to, like, create something and to, like, actually, like, you know, tame the West when it's nice and sunny out and you've got, like, life and everything. And that's why I love the snow, because it just like it comes down so softly, but then it just, like, piles and it covers, and then men can't even walk through it.
Yeah, dude.
It's like, and then you're watching it, like, animals aren't even around and it's just dead silent.
I know.
And then
it's
you
so
just hear the cracking, the fire and crack of the gun, baby.
So this is the Cultist Cinema Knowledge podcast. There he is. It's Jordan the Cracker Howard.
Yeah, dude. I am.
Yeah. So we, I mean, if you're listening to this is going to be a 2-parter, 2-in-1 episode. We're
coming true to form here. But when we first started, our first, like, 45 episodes,
they're all
two
movies. Yeah.
So.
And we skipped last week, so this is coming a little bit late. So we're doing them both together. So thank you for that. And then shout out to my Grammy. She actually texted me today and was like, "Did you guys quit doing your podcast?" And I was like, "Oh no, we're doing a 2-parter. So hang on there."
Yeah.
So I'm glad. Shout out. But
yes, all the grandmothers out there.
I know.
Up.
Sorry for all
sorry
for all the cussing. But
yeah, true. Yeah, that is, yeah. Sorry.
So we're wrapping up. We've had a crazy. Jordan's been moving around a lot. I've been having school and stuff, so we're wrapping up.
I'm
November.
finally back in the Pacific Northwest.
I know, and we still never. You were here for months, and we never did one podcast together in the same room.
I know, it's like, it's wild that we just can't. I mean, I don't know. Once we like retire and we have our own studio, then
for sure.
then we'll do it. But for now, we do it across the pond, and we get to talk to each other.
That's right.
I'm I'm excited to get it going.
Yeah. So last week was 310 to Yuma, the remake, and then this week was the 1971 McCabe and Miss Miller. So we will start, just because I have to dig back in the old memory mine, because I watched 310 to Yuma like 10 days ago. After
that's our yes, it's like, that's how come we have to do the podcast like 3 days after we watch the movies, because it just kind of melts out of our brain.
Dude, 24 hours. Like, I watch it within 24 hours, or else it's gone.
Usually, yeah, right, yeah.
But no, I think I can unlock it. So we'll do 310 first, right? Go back and do 310. So 310 to Yuma. I'll just lay it out real quick as I remember. I'm going to do a real quickie synopsis, right? So Christian Bale, he's a farmer. He's got some land. He's got money trouble. He owes money. His barn gets burned down. He's got 3 sons, wife on this land, all this. And during this happenstance, this gang is Ben Wade, I think. Yeah, right. Russell Crowe's character. He comes with his gang, and he robs a stagecoach that's guarded by Pinkertons, and Christian Bale and his sons happen to kind of cross paths with him, and that's how they kind of get entangled. And then eventually, Christian Bale's just trying to provide for his family, so he's doing what he can. And Ben Wade gets captured in town by some of the authorities and the Pinkertons. And so Christian Bale is like, I will help you be this, because they're like, we need another man. Who will it be? And he's like, I'll do it, but you got to pay me $200 because he's just trying to get the cash money. And so they're like, all right, great. So he goes. They have to escort Ben Wade to the 310 to Yuma, the train, the 310 that heads to Yuma, because that's the train, the armored train that gets him to go to prison, right? So once
it's the train's in the town of Contention.
Oh yeah, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Why not?
You can't make that up.
It's not as good as the town of hell from what is this, High Plains Drifter?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
No, yeah, but Contention's a real place, dude. It's
no, yeah. Oh, I'm sure it is.
Oh my
we
gosh.
got some crazy town names. Some crazy it seems like Old West has got some of the craziest town names too. Like people just yep, this is my town now. I'm going to call it Butthole, Kentucky or whatever, So
really, yeah. They're just they're just Tree Knot.
Yeah, exactly. Why not?
Yeah, that's my town.
So long story short, he's got his crew, and all the side characters kind of just die, and there's a whole bunch of random complications that happen as they're on their journey to 310, and all the while.
Well, it's because Ben Wade's gang is
the gang
stalking
that's
them,
his second in command is kind of being led by
Right.
Ben Foster, who's the goat of the movie.
Yeah,
obviously.
And he plays he plays like the unhinged, real sinister, diehard fan.
Yeah,
of Ben Wade, so.
It's funny. It's the more like a real life version of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, where he's the Sundance Kid that's the amazing shot, but he's a ruthless psychopath.
Yeah.
And Ben Wade is the charming psychopath. Anyway, they they go, they have their complications, and it's the side characters die, and then the son gets involved, and it's that's all fine and dandy, and all the while they're kind of oh, maybe Ben Wade isn't that bad of a guy, because they have to sometimes be on the same side against Indians or whatever. And so eventually they hole up in the town, and they're waiting for the train, and Ben Wade's or Russell Crowe, is I'll pay you way more, just turn the other way and you could say I got knocked out and blah blah blah. And the whole time Christian Bale's son is you're a coward and a piece of shit, and so eventually he's just no, it's not about the money anymore, it's about leaving a legacy and proving to my son that I'm an honorable man. And he's this World War or Civil War vet.
Yeah, whoa.
Yeah.
Time travel or what?
Yeah. He's a Civil War vet, and he's got a gimpy foot, and he has some hero story, but then he's no, actually I ran, I got blown off by one of my own guys and all this.
Right.
And so Ben Wade kind of feels pity for him, and he's all right, well, let's go, buddy, and it's they have sort of a weird mutual respect. And the town, there's a huge shootout, everyone's dying, they finally make it to the train, and Ben Wade finally is all right, dude, you can arrest me because I've escaped from Yuma before, so it is what it is. This is the easiest way to get me out, but I'm not going to have my guys kill you, even though I won't tell them to stop. So he finally gets him on the train, and then Christian Bale's I did it. And then he just is hanging out there, forgetting there's a gunfight going on, and then he gets blasted to bits.
Yeah, and then the most vicious, violent person in the show shoots him pretty immediately.
The guy that's been trying to shoot him this entire time shoots him when he sees a chance to shoot him. Naturally.
Right. Well, when it's just an open, blatant time to shoot him, it really was very silly how he's celebrating.
I know. I'm surprised he didn't do that. Kill.
I know, really though. Yeah, getting blasted by bullets. But it does. He does get.
He does
pretty good.
He does. Yeah. But it's kind of it's nice because then Ben Wade goes the full he is not such a rotten bastard, and he was an honorable man. You didn't have to shoot him in the back, and so he kills his whole crew. and gets on the train because that was the stipulation for, Christian Bale knew it was a suicide mission near the end, and his family was getting money, and so he's like,
right.
He gets on the train so that his
legacy.
family will get the money, so it won't be for nothing, and he'll go down as a hero, and he's probably gonna escape anyway because his horse follows the train along, and it ends kind of he's like clicks, and the horse is like, all right, and then he's gonna escape down the line because now he's a fresh slate. His gang is all dead, and it's just him and. Christian Bale's family's got that money, and they're definitely going to get off that farm that sucks. So,
right,
and that's it.
Finally get off
that's
dirt farm.
310 to Yuma, folks. So,
yeah, this is definitely not your first time, right?
No.
This isn't your first. Yeah, and definitely not my first time either.
I think it's my third time.
Third feels comfortable,
Yeah.
but then I also could have watched it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Chet really liked this movie, and
I get it, but it's
we
like
watched it together. And
I remember. So it came out when we were in high school, and we obviously loved westerns then as well. But it came out the same. It came out. I think True Grit came out right after this, but it came out the same year as Assassination of Jesse James.
right,
and
yeah.
and it was like, okay, this is cool because we like westerns, but it definitely kind of I felt like I liked it, but with time I'm like, it didn't get what westerns were about as much as those other movies. You know what I mean? Obviously.
Yeah.
This definitely
I want to see
felt
this,
like an action
this
movie masquerading as a western.
Right.
Which
and this deviates from the original, which kind of is interesting. I'm like, that's what we need to do 1 year too for westerns is watch the original remake, Yeah. Because it's I really want to know, he lives at the end of the original, so I feel like the originals probably has a lot more 50s style.
Oh, 100%.
They
gumption.
I think it's
the good
60s,
guys.
early 60s,
the good
right?
guys win, and knowing it's that despicable.
Right.
You know
The
what
black
I mean?
hat. Yeah. The black hat dies, and so yeah. But
I'd be
I
interested,
don't know.
but I don't know, man. This movie, I went in thinking this rewatch. I went in being like, yeah, this movie's fine, and I'm down to rewatch it again, and so. But
there's something you
I
said
walked
too,
away
I think maybe
feeling
off the air.
reaffirmed. I feel the same as I did.
Yeah, and you said it's more of an action movie than a western, and I totally agree. This could have been. I mean, I'm thinking of that oh my god, the one with the prisoners, Precinct 13 or something or whatever, and they're trying to transport him underground or whatever to a new prison. It just feels like this could have taken place taken place anywhere.
Yeah, a couple little tweaks. It's just, and that's no fault. I feel like I can't fault the movie for that because it's that's
production wise, it looks really nice, but that's actually maybe coming off of The Great Silence. I'm just it doesn't feel like a western. It feels like a movie, and it feels
it's
it
very
felt too polished.
Well,
and,
I know but I'm trying to step back and not be such a fucking snobbish hipster because I'm this is a pretty good introduction to just the setting because that's the thing. It's it does have the pace of a regular kind of Hollywood blockbuster. It's got literally within that first shootout at the beginning, there's a Gatling gun and an exploding horse, and I roll my eyes every time. And,
yes.
and I
totally,
as soon as that
happened,
happened, I was like, oh yeah,
dynamite.
I remember.
When that happened, I also sighed because I was just I was what are they trying to get away with?
Which
here?
is fine because it's some movies we talked about, previously we talked about The Wild Bunch, right? And The Wild Bunch has some pretty crazy set scenes, and there's explosions. Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid had explosions, but this movie, it felt like it wanted to be a car chase with a huge machine gun shootout, and it's that's the vibe that doesn't really work. And I know this is directed by James, or I don't know if his first name James, but Mangold or whatever. He's the guy who did Logan, right? Which is a better, and obviously he did Logan much later than this, but it makes sense with his style. He also did Identity, which is the best one.
which is amazing because Identity is not his style, or it doesn't feel like this at all.
But
it's its own thing. But
so it's I respect what he's trying to do because he's he does feel sort of like a big Hollywood, the director that people will just hire to do a big Hollywood job that he's does competent at. And you could tell he cares, but he definitely is he's the Eli Roth of the whole thing. He's a fanboy, but he can't quite pull it off himself, in my opinion. this movie is still very entertaining. That's the thing. It's very entertaining, but like the spirit of a Western is missing here. And it's hard to put your finger on that quantitatively, but like all the other movies we've watched this month.
It just feels like a theme park, and not really in a good way. Like it seems like it's.
Well, that's just not what we
Like,
want.
it's
That's the thing.
It's so
like,
built on sets, right? I guess that's true because it is competent in its.
It does what it does well, but what we want it to, we don't want it to do what it does. We like movies that do different things than that. This is not. We're so sorry, everybody out there in podcast land. We're literally all we're doing. We're like this is the roller coaster.
We're scatting and bebopping over here.
No.
We're not even like
So
talking
if this
about
is
words.
the roller coaster,
We're like this movie doesn't jive very well.
We are. This is a fast, crazy roller coaster, but we're more of like the lazy river kind of guys. Like we don't ride the roller coasters.
No, we're more of the fans of like a broken shopping cart behind like a a broken gutter and in the alleyway.
But,
like we're the great silence where no one lives. Like
right.
I want everyone to die.
I'm fine,
but not in like a heroic way either.
Right. And like I said, it's like I'm fine. Like for a lot of people whose attention spans are horrible, which most people's are, and as are mine often, this is fine. You know what I mean? It's fast moving. It's pretty fast paced. It's like it's got a lot of characters and like some deaths and everything. You could feel it's very shallow though. I guess is what I'm saying. Everything is very shallow.
Yeah.
Everything is very skin deep. It's like it's like I do like the main characters. So like once all the side characters finally died, it's like was more interesting because it could just focus on them a little bit more. Because, I think Christian Bale's character is fine, and he's a decent enough three-dimensional character, even if his acting is whatever. But that's not his fault. It's the character's fault.
I know it really was.
I would have liked to see the
surprised.
roles switched, honestly. I would like to see Christian Bale play the villain in that, because it's like, at first I was not digging. I wasn't digging. I almost said Kurt Russell. I wasn't digging. I just said it. No, Ben Foster's the GOAT. He's the best. He's the best in every movie he's in, and I wish he was in more stuff. But no,
right. And we watched 3
Russell
Days a
Crowe.
Night,
Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Russell Crowe.
If Russell Crowe was the farmer and Christian Bale was like the black hat leader, I'd be interested to see that in his interpretation of that character, because they're all just very much like, oh, I'm just a guy I'm doing the right thing, and he's like, I'm the charismatic bad guy, and it's like everyone has their role to fill, and they all fill it fine. But that's what I'm saying. It's like this movie's not trying to do anything really deep, but like, and that's fine. But like the spirit, when I talk about the spirit of the Western, it's this more introspective. Like this movie doesn't ever breathe. You know what I mean? I said this to you off air the whole time I was watching this movie. I was thinking the same year Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. We can't never not bring it up. Came out.
I mean,
but
no, right.
In that movie,
it's fair. It's fair because it's the same year, and that movie's
right. There's
astronomically better.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of scenes in that movie that kind of have that that vibe, right? It has that moment to slow down and it just soak up the environment and like soak up and think. But like the part in that movie where he's just shooting his gun, thinking about suicide. He's like, "Do you ever think about killing yourself?" And then he's just shooting his gun into the frozen lake while Sam Rockwell's trying to talk to him. I'm like, that's nothing but like this character's just alone with his thoughts and the echoes of his gunshot, and it's like just being in the environment.
And it really gives
310 has none of that though. 310 has none of it.
Right. Even when it tries to, when they have the because it's campfire scenes, crucial to the Western.
Gotta.
Especially the Western that like they're on a mission and they're escorting somebody. There has to be the campfire scene. I mean, I think there's a campfire scene in pretty much every Western in the world, but they have to have that. And every time they had the campfire scenes, they were like the weirdest conversations, and then it was always action. Something had to happen. And I'm like, they could just be at the campfire.
It's true. Well,
it's like he kills that guy, and it's like they got to be like, oh, he's so tough because he killed somebody.
I know.
And it's like
I do like when they woke up and he was stabbing the fuck out of that one guy. That was good. Like,
right, and that's
because I was thinking of the campfire. One of my favorite campfire scenes is from Bone Tomahawk, when they fucking the dude from Lost. I'm forgetting his name right now. He like wakes up and blasts those guys just without even thinking a second thought because he set the perimeter trap, and it's just like, But that's the thing. Like these movies, a lot of times in westerns, like a lot of the other westerns we've watched this month too, it's just like there's a lot of tension building, right? And then you get the short, quick bursts of violence that pop off, and that's the release valve. This movie is all valve, no buildup, and so it doesn't really have this pack the same punch as when you get that high pressure, like, you know, blast off that you would get in like extreme bursts of violence after 30 minutes of tension building in like The Grey Silence. In 310, you know, because in 310 it's just more concerned with like making sure you don't get bored.
Right.
And
I mean, the best part of that whole movie is when they're in the hotel. When they're in the hotel together, and there actually is. I mean, and the editing is really bad in this movie. But like when they're there, you actually get some time to like just kind of sit, and it's almost like it's that time to build it up where you're like, okay, our hero made it. Like, I know how the movie ends, so it's like I know what's going to happen. But even still knowing the ending, there's a bit of me that has some hope where it's like oh, Christian Bale's so confident at this point, you know, that he's like
just determined. You know, he's just so
determined.
And he's righteous behind like I'm doing the right thing for my family. You know,
and that's the time when like Russell Crowe, his character is like he's just kind of like he actually has the most confidence of himself too, being like, I've been here before, but they don't know it. You know, he doesn't know it, and so it's just like he's like, I'll be fine. And then it's nice because you get him bargaining a little bit, where he's like, I will give you more money. Like he's like, let's just be done with this. And
he's
it's almost
like
he does have sympathy because he doesn't want his gang to destroy the town. You know, he's just kind of like let's just move it on. I'll give you money, whatever. You know. But then it's like he's like, well, I appreciate your principle. And so like that is like the only time where I'm like, these characters
the best
come
part
together
of the
and
movie.
they feel like actual like it's like they probably shot this movie somewhat like, you know, in sequence, because it's like that's the only time where I feel like they've actually talked to each other.
They're clicking,
they just felt like they felt like two actors who got together on set through their busy schedule and we're just like, all right, we'll act in this scene together. Where it's like in, you know,
like the climax.
Butch Cassidy.
Oh yeah,
it's like that you like they were friends, like they were, you know, like,
and it showed, and
it showed big time.
Well, and that's the thing, because it's like
bummer.
even though that's why I say like I like the characters, they're fine, but like Ben Wade, you know, Russell Crowe's character, I do like kind of like near the end, because it all kind of comes through, and he's like, listen, kid, I would have shot you in the back if I had a gun. To lead a gang like these guys, these scoundrels, these animals, you have to be rotten to the core. And they're like, no, you're not, Ben. I know you have good in you. And like the ending, even though it's like so on the nose and so there's like zero subtlety.
That's it. Yeah, there's no
you know what I mean? I still like it, even though I wish it could have been subtle, but this is not a subtle movie. It's not. This movie leaves nothing to subtext, and that's that's where I'm at with it. Everyone says what they feel, and everyone does what they
shoot dynamite in the air like twice in this movie. Where it's just like that's where it's like, oh, okay, there's no suspension of disbelief anymore.
Nobody's thinking about suicide while shooting into a frozen lake in this. You know what I mean? Like you don't ever have to be like, oh, that he's going through some stuff. He's thinking about some things. It's like, no, you know exactly what they're feeling at all times because they say it. And at the end, you're like, you know, Russell Crowe is like, oh, he does have, you know, he's the bad guy with the heart of gold deep down. And he, you know, he thinks it's unjust that, you know, Ben Foster shot him in the back. So he kills all his dudes. And I like that because it makes sense for the movie, but it is. It's just so on the nose that.
Right.
And again, that's fine because the audience for this movie is not us. You know what I mean? It's like, we like Westerns, so I still like it. But yeah, if this didn't have the Western coat, which we've already said, you could tweak a couple things, and this could take place in pretty much any period, with a couple minor tweaks with any gang. You know what I mean? I could set this in modern day with a couple tweaks, right? But like, if this didn't have the Western coat, it would immediately lose like 2 stars for me because it's like that's what puts it over the edge. Because I like all Westerns, so I'm like, this movie. To a point.
Honestly, that is true though. It's like just because I like the setting, so I'm.
And it's again, I'm
content.
But I don't think it's bad. I just think it does everything kind of just like I guess we've watched so many movies and like we're film snobs and all that. This is a film podcast where we're talking snobs, and we're like, this movie's just very Hollywood. It's a very Hollywood version of a Western. Because like even big westerns at the time, like Jesse James is underrated. Nobody really watched it, but like True Grit was big. But that's the Coen brothers. That's different. Like they
and
they get
we
it.
watched the Coen brothers, and we were kind of lukewarm on that. Anyways, so
exactly.
Go
it was
listen to our podcast on that.
It was better than this because they got it right, but it was also this kind of movie, but done right. It was still this kind of movie though, where it's like trying to get meat in the seats, trying to be more of this like kind of like lowest common denominator, try and get the most attention possible, like quote unquote modern audiences where it's there's no reading between the lines type of movie. And that's fine. It's just not like, it doesn't make it bad though. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's just like, just because I didn't like it that much doesn't make it a bad movie. It's just,
this definitely isn't a movie I would judge you on liking at all. I feel like you kind of like should like this movie if you are even just, I mean, like you keep saying, introduction to westerns, but I think it's like tentatively you probably you have to know like what a western is to appreciate this more. But I do think this does fall under like kind of just general audience. Like
anyone can
go into
enjoy
this,
it, and it happens to be a western, right?
Yeah, and it's like you like Christian Bale, so you're gonna go see this, and you want Russell Crowe to draw you naked, and that's
all I want is to.
That's all, yeah.
Let's take a brief moment. So I did like the music, even though it also sometimes was very generic, but sometimes it was really banging. Like the opening, I loved the opening, where it's just dead silent, and then his barn catches on fire, and he's like, "No!" And then it's like that really intense, that really high pitched violin, is cool. But the reason to watch this movie is Ben Foster. What happened to that guy, man? He was everywhere in like 2010, like. It was like this and like Pandorum and like one other movie I forget.
It was 30 Days a Night is what I said.
Oh yeah, 30 Days a Night, and then it's
that's
like
the big one.
Hell and High Water was his big like. Oh, I'm like, okay, he's like the co-lead, right?
Main character, yeah, basically.
And so I'm like, this is it. And then I'm like, I don't know if I've seen a movie with him in it since Hell and High Water. That was like 8 years ago.
And
he's the best part of that movie too.
On this watch for me, in this rewatch, I was expecting. I thought Ben Foster had a bigger presence because he's like the only character I really remembered watching it like that. I truly watching it this time. I'm like, he's only in like 4 scenes. He's not. He's barely in this movie. But it's wild. Like how much he steals the show.
Like you said, impression. Like he leaves the biggest impression, but his screen time, he's probably got like 10 minutes of screen time, maybe.
Yeah, literally. Like it's wild how like. And I think it's because he plays his character with some nuance.
Well, exactly. And
that's like, he's insane, but like you also, I think that's it too, is the tension's there. You never know exactly what he's going to do.
Well, Ben Foster's, in every role he's in, he's the kind of actor, like he has a physicality to it, but he also like, he does a lot more with his face and like with his micro expressions that like let you lean into the character and feel it some more. Cause it's like you said earlier, Christian Bale and Russell Crowe kind of felt like they just were like, they came, they went into makeup, they got their nice things. And Ben Foster, like he took his outfit home and then he just like slept in the back shack and didn't brush his teeth for a week. Like, and then showed up to set. Like he's definitely got that vibe. Like he's greasy. His teeth are brown. Like he's got like this weird kind of like manic way to his speech. He's not like, he's like soft spoken and he's kind of like light. His voice is like kind of reedy and high. Like he's doing interesting shit with his character, his voice, his body, and he's like actually acting. And like, no shame on these other guys, but they're just being dudes. You know what I mean? And they're like perfect white. And I guess that's the thing. I mean, I know the West was new once, and so it's like, but I like my grimy Westerns, but it's like, nobody bathed back then. Nobody brushed their teeth back then. Like you were right. You were lucky. We'll talk a little bit about that in McCabe and Miss Miller. But I'm just like,
that's the authenticity in that movie is awesome.
It's great. Well, because that's what I'm saying. It's like the prostitutes in that are just like living in these tents by the river, and they're probably everyone just stinks. It's disgusting. But in this movie,
they bring that
perfect
up in
white
that
teeth,
too, which is great.
Yeah, it's like Russell Crowe shows up. He's definitely got like manicured nails and shit. And I'm just like, I don't know, like that's what this movie feels like to me. It feels like playing cowboy.
And I want to say something. We had a conversation with our friend a while ago at the bar, and he didn't want to watch the Western Assassination of Jesse James with the Coward Robert Ford because it had been
Brad Pitt
or Brad Pitt, and I was like, Brad Pitt melts into that. Like, he doesn't feel like Brad Pitt. Like, this movie, I felt like I was watching Russell Crowe, actually.
100%.
It was Russell Crowe first, and I just was like, oh, man.
And
where
that's
I'm
what's kind of disappointing
Brad
with
Pitt-
Christian Bale, because it's like, we know Christian Bale's a phenomenal actor when he wants to be, but sometimes he's just Bruce Wayne, or whatever, and sometimes he's just anonymous farmer man. Like, it's just he's just any random white guy. So it is kind of disappointing, because it's like, I've seen Christian Bale act his fucking ass off, and so it is kind of disappointing to see him like just be so generic and forgettable in this. Like, but but that it's not his fault. I think it's just the character, because even the directing, either way. But it's like, you can only do so much with that character. He's just a very generic, lawful good kind of guy,
right?
That wants,
but not even done well. I mean, that's what I'm trying to.
Yeah.
I'm bummed, because I'm trying to think
It's
of
just
other
basic.
westerns where
It's
like,
basic. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. It's basic, but it's
it's basic.
But it's fine. I'll take it though, because it's like, that's the thing. This movie, I don't know if you have a money minute, but this movie was popular. I seem to remember at the time, and it brought in a lot of money. And that, if anything,
I mean, it did. I can give a quick money minute, because we're doing like a quick abridged version of this episode, but it was budgeted at 50 and it made 71.
Oh, so not crazy.
It didn't. Yeah, it
for,
wasn't like
for
it
a western though. Like, that's the thing. It's like, it probably brought
and
more attention to the genre, which I always appreciate, because it's like another movie that came out right before this that I love is Appaloosa, with Wood Harris, or not Wood Harris, Ed Harris. Wood Harris is from The Wire.
I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that before.
Dude, I always put it on every month, but nobody picks it. It's fucking awesome. He directed it too, but it's a passion. It's like his passion project. Viggo Mortensen's in it, and he crushes it. But anyway, Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons is the villain. Anyway, it's good, but like, it has a lot of what a western has, but it has a more modern look, I guess, like cinematography wise, that this movie kind of has. But it has that sense of like this build up, this tension leading to the shootout, like leading to this. It's like, that's like, westerns are more in line, not always, but like, with a thriller or something, right? Or even it's like, they're good, pretty complementary to horror movies, I think, where it's just like, you build, and then you go. Right. But no, this movie's fine. It's like, even though I didn't love it that much, I think it's fine. It does what it does well, and I would recommend it to anyone who just is like a regular, just like doesn't really watch a lot of movies, I guess, and especially doesn't watch a lot of westerns. And I'm just like, yeah, you can enjoy this.
Yeah,
my dad would watch this casually. My Harriman dad, he would watch this casually and not like, while he's half asleep on the couch or whatever, you know what I mean, or doing something else on his fantasy football on your phone. Like, this movie is perfect for that.
Right. Yeah, you won't really miss too much, and they are good actors, so it's like nothing about it is bad.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's shot well, but we've said this before. It's like, it's hard to make a western look ugly, because it's just like beautiful landscapes like 90% of the time. But so it's like, it looks fine, but it's like, it does look too clean. Like, I don't think it's digital, but it looks kind of like it.
I do have real quick. I'm just gonna get my quick I have two facts that I like to give out there to everybody in podcast land. There's one that's really popular that you might know if you're tentatively familiar with this film, but I appreciate this. It's always kind of like, it's a sweet little thing that they do in movies, but right when the bells chime, the 3 minutes, 3 p.m. It's the movie is 10 minutes left. So him going,
that is
and
cool.
taking Russell Crowe, like Christian Bale and Russell Crowe going through, getting him onto the train. That's 10 minutes.
I like that.
Actually, I think all the way to the end too. I think the train takes off and leaves, and the credits roll, and it's 10
like
minutes.
a real time from that moment onward.
Yeah,
I like
really,
that.
Like, it's actual 10 minutes.
To be fair, it does feel like 8 minutes of them just running and hiding behind cover.
It really
to be fair,
them running through the town is kind of silly, and
because literally they're like, Ben, stop, and he's just like running. They're running on the rooftops.
Yeah, no, and I'm like, I don't know. He's like, don't shoot at my boss, kind of thing, and it's like, then he starts killing people, and it's like,
don't even get me started. That like the whole town suddenly. I get it that it's like the money, but it's just like something like, oh, now we're villains, and they just shoot all those dudes in cold blood. The actual deputies.
It is true. That's where I'm like. That's
Like,
what
sure.
I love. Like that's what Clint Eastwood does a lot in his movies.
Yeah.
Even like he always tries to get the town to rally, and they're more, even if it's like pretty on the nose, they're more humanistic, where they're like, I don't really want to fight, mister. They're kind of just like, I'm a barber, and it's like, in that they are really
Most
like,
people
it's like a woman with like a frying
violence.
pan. It's like
right. Very few, like
even
maybe
with,
1 in 10 people
still
would be desperate enough to commit murder just on the spot for cash.
I know. Yeah.
Especially of a police officer. You know what I mean? It's like, if
and just firing randomly too at each other and things. And it's just like, but it's fine. It's a Western, so like your bullets are supposed to fly, so they're supposed to be shoot out. So, but anyways, the whole 10-minute bit is really funny.
That's cool.
And then, did you know that entire set was snowed out? They got this freak snowstorm.
The city?
The ending that set. And when they run through the scaffolding and stuff, and the like the frame, the house that's just
that's cool. And they're like that felt real. Like they're running out to the outskirts. There's always like a village and
that was supposed to be complete. They literally were going to finish the entire town to shoot in, and they got snowed out so hard that they had to take bulldozers, and they brought in over 200 tons of sand to cover it, because literally right off camera there's 8 feet of snow.
What the fuck?
It's insane, right? Isn't that crazy? So like that, I'm like, oh, I love that. Like that's cool,
intense.
though. Like,
that's movie magic right there, though.
That is movie magic, baby. Yeah, dude. That's cool. Now I want to watch it again, just the last 10 minutes, to be like, where is it? Where's the pile of snow in the background?
It ended up kind of adding, because it's like the unfinished vibe of the town like did make me feel like in westerns,
like
it's like this is a booming population, like it's growing. This is a frontier town.
On that topic, McCabe and Miss Miller, that is literally what the movie is them building this town up
and it's
around themselves. It's awesome. Yeah, that authenticity is beautiful.
I'm going to read a couple Reddits about 310, and then we'll move on to McCabe Miss Miller, because I don't think I have anything else to say about 310 to Yuma.
Yeah. Let's go.
You know where we stand on it at this point. So, Clones of People 2 says, first watch, I knew of it, just hadn't seen it. This was really good from start to almost finish. I enjoyed the characters, the acting, and the cinematography. The acting was really good. Shout out to Peter Fonda. Oh, yeah, I forgot that was Peter Fonda, the little guy. And Ben Foster, and the story, while simple, had enough going on to be interesting. Fair enough. I can skip over the fact that Wade is almost impossibly easy to capture and then escapes with ease many times, but the ending left a sour taste in my mouth. Wade is pretty likable for a bad guy and has an air of being fair and righteous, but the shift in the last 10 minutes is too much. He doesn't need to willingly put himself in the cell for a satisfying ending. Overall, this was still good. Solid 7 out of 10. I'd want to see the original. Sadly, and like a lot of Westerns, this would have been great if it was made in 1968 Italy and full of scum and grime. Yeah, he gets it.
I mean, yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like, yeah. There's two people who like Westerns, and that's Wild Wild West, or that's The Great Silence.
Yeah, honestly, though, those are the... So, and then that's why we always go back to, because the earlier version is like, you're John Wayne or you're Clint Eastwood. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah, true. Yeah, that is it.
Also, the train station at the end just makes me want to watch Once Upon a Time in the West again. I can't believe we haven't watched that for the podcast, though, because it's like, I put it on sometimes, it doesn't win.
That's in oh my God, that's in a movie we just watched. They like, that parallels. Oh, never mind. No, that's in that. We're watching that series called Only Murderers in the Building.
Oh,
and there's a whole like Once Upon a Time in the West like parallel to that. Anyways,
I need to watch that show.
That movie's good.
Thank you, Clones of People 2, for that comment. Appreciate it. Turbo13 says, yeehaw. First off, Christian Bale is a legend. Second off, I really enjoyed this flick. I love the plot, cinematography, and characters. It feels old-timey, especially the scenes at the end and when they're running through all those framed-up houses. It really threw me into that era. Only nitpicks I have is Ben Wade called his boys off, but then they just started shooting again. Couldn't he called them off completely and then walk to the station? Also, at the very end, right, when Dan just turns around to have a super casual conversation and gets shot 27 times. The ending was gangster, and the whistle to call the horse was the icing on the cake. 4.1 out of 5. I was going to say it earlier. We never know what movies he's going to like, but this is like 310 to Yuma seems like a movie you'd like.
Yeah, and thanks for commenting. That's amazing.
Anyway, so that's it. Let's move on. Let's just slow it down a bit because McCabe and Miss Miller is the polar opposite.
100%. Let's get our like enormously long thin cigar out and start chewing on the end. Get your velvet table out and
right. So
lay your poker cards down.
McCabe and Miss Miller. You want me to do a synopsis real quick?
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
I'll do a quick one. So
yeah,
McCabe and Miss Miller, 1971. Robert Altman directed. This guy, McCabe, John McCabe. He's like this kind of grifter, slick dude, former possibly outlaw or whatever. He goes to this very new burgeoning frontier town, and he's got a little bit of cash, and he kind of sees an opportunity there, and it kind of like slowly evolves to, he's in this town, he brings poker, like he's like bringing more gambling, and he like sets up a gambling situation. That grows, then he like becomes a pimp, he like gets some prostitutes, and he opens up a whorehouse. That grows to the point where he's building buildings. It's definitely, he is like a chiller, more like soft-spoken version of Swearingen from Deadwood.
Right.
And then I forget the other guy in Deadwood, the really slimy guy that runs the hotel. That's the other guy in this one.
Yeah,
Sheenan,
literally,
the Irish guy in this one. And so the town's growing a little bit, and he's becoming a member of the town, doing all the stuff that's, the gambling and the prostituting and all that. And then on a wagon train, Miss Miller shows up. She is like, I don't know, a widow or whatever, and she's like from, like she mentions it, that backstory a little bit.
Oh my God, where is she from again? She's like British.
She is. She's got a heavy like British accent or whatever. But she comes into town, as does Shelley Duvall, which caught me off guard. But she's a mail order bride that later becomes a prostitute. Anyway, so Miss Miller, she approaches McCabe and is like, "Hey, you're running this town, but I can be your bottom bitch and run these prostitutes better. Open up a real brothel with bathtubs. I'll bring in some ladies from Seattle and some so got some Chinese ladies and all this." And he's like kind of against it at first, but she's like, "You dumb bitch, like you just trust me, And then so he does. He kind of he's wooed over by her and her bluntness, And he likes to watch her eat, and so
yeah, he does. Yeah, she eats pretty good.
She does. To be fair, I wasn't bored with her smashing at breakfast. But they go into a business together, and they get they upgrade their whorehouse, and they're making a saloon and a bathhouse, and they're making good money, but they kind of end up getting closer. Like they sleep together, but it's like as a business, because she's just like, it's an exchange. That's my job, But he starts kind of falling for her, and he's like, doesn't really know how to express himself, and he's like, he only knows this lifestyle, but he's not like the brightest guy. But he is charismatic and he can win people over. But some other guys come from out of town. Yeah, exactly. Some other guys come from out of town that are representative of like a bigger firm. They want to come and buy up all his properties, and they offer him a sum, and he's like, nah. And then later, he turn out that he just wanted to drive it up because it's like, but also, I don't think he can quite decide. Like, he feels like he's built something, but he also wants to kind of get away from it all at the same time because he doesn't like the responsibility.
Right. He's not very tactful in his negotiating. He thinks that he can drive the price up because he thinks it's worth more than it is, and that's fantastic.
Well, his confidence is great. Exactly that, but I also think that like he potentially. I mean, we'll get into it, but like I potentially think that like he doesn't know what he wants. Like he likes that he built something, but also like he doesn't like to be in charge necessarily because at his core he's like a swindler, right? And he's like he doesn't want to be a businessman, so he wants to offload it for all the money. But part of him is like no, and also because Miss Miller, who he's like falling in love with, Constantine or whatever is her first name, she wants to like make it a legit, like this is her business and like do a thing, and she needs to feed her opium addiction.
I know you're talking about that,
and but eventually these guys, like the negotiations totally fall through to the unfortunate nature of McCabe. He's upset about that, and then some other guys show up in town to like kind of intimidate him, to be like, well, you're done. Like, get the fuck out of here. Then I'm not exactly sure the end game. Like, if he dies, then like who gets the land? That's not. I don't know. These guys, they have an angle. They're big, faceless corporation. They're hired goons, all of them. And
right.
You know, he goes to a lawyer, and the lawyer's like, "No, you're going to be the face. You're going to be the face of America, man, and you're going to stand up to you're the little man that stands up to the big guys." And he's like, "Oh, sure, I guess." And like he just kind of trusts his lawyer to do it. But these guys come into town and hunt him down. They end up killing another dude, and they kill the Reverend kind of by accident and start a fire. But while the fire's going on, they're slurking around in the snow, and McCabe ends up. He gets shot a couple times, and he kills 2 of the dudes in an ambush, and then the last guy shoots him dead, nearly, and when he goes to check on him, he fucking actually gets him with the Derringer, because there's rumors that he may or may not have been kind of an outlaw. It's very, like, you know, it's very hearsay, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
yeah,
but
exactly.
he doesn't.
Someone's like, "Oh, I knew this Miller, and he killed my brother." And
the real killer that shows up, the mercenary guys, they're like, "This guy ain't no fucking killer," you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm inclined to believe that, you know? But he dies alone in the snow and just gets buried in a fucking snow mound while everyone's trying to put out the fire. All the while, it ends with fucking Constantine just in an opium den, dude.
Yep.
She doesn't know he's dead. She doesn't know any of this is going on. She's just living her life that way,
it up,
dude,
baby.
yeah. And just staring fascinated at I don't even know what that is she's looking at the end, because it goes over the credits too, and I was like, I was gonna look it up.
I'm assuming it holds her opium.
Something like she got a big payout.
Sort of,
yeah, I think it's like her little container, because it is just like a nice little thing.
I would imagine it's like a doser or something.
Yeah, something like that. Because I mean, she's got a whole rig, you know. She's got a whole.
Oh, she's
got the
dude,
gear,
it's the
man.
classic. It's her gear, yeah, dude. Her
Yeah.
gear. I was like, oh my god, she's got the tray, and she's like,
She does the
you know,
whole
kind of
thing.
embarrassed by it. But I'm like, God, that opium looks really fun. Like I'm,
Yeah.
That's my next vice.
I know. Well, that's what.
Like,
Anyway, that's what me
I
and
love
David were
it's like,
saying.
can you smoke opium sitting up, or like, do you have to be laying down? Like,
Nah, you gotta lay down. It's like heroin. I mean, you don't have to. You're just gonna have a better time of it. You can keep going.
That's true.
Anyway, so this is what we're. This was both of our first times. So, like, what were your first impressions? That's McCabe and Miss Miller. That's the gist.
God, yeah, I loved. Thanks for that. I loved, like, when we're talking about, like, putting our finger on what makes a western. This feels amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it feels so authentic. It's one of those, like, I don't know why. I mean, maybe it's the film grain. Maybe it's the distance from the characters. I didn't know. You know, when I saw Shelley Duvall, I was like, oh, weird. Like, weird, an actress I know. You know, I don't really know anyone else in this that well. Like, you know, not enough to be super familiar. And so maybe that's it. But I also think it's just like, it's like the wood looked authentic. Like the steam engine was legitimately authentic.
Yeah.
That was like a real thing. It's like everything about it, like the clothing, the grime, the slowness. I mean, it's First Cow. We always mention First Cow in our Western episodes, and kind of every movie ever.
I'm
'cause
pretty
First Cow's
sure
amazing.
Kelly Reinhardt, the director of First Cow, has said that this movie is a huge influence for her.
Oh, well, then I mean, that was the whole time I was thinking that I was like, if it wasn't a huge influence for her, it was a huge coincidence.
I've heard
definitely.
Yeah, I've heard in an interview with someone else they were talking about Kelly Reinhardt and about how she was obsessed with this movie or something when she was making Meek's Cut Off.
Yeah,
but it shows a lot, and it shows a lot in First Cow.
First Cow, yeah, First Cow's, yeah. But it's like, that's what, I don't know, man. Maybe it's my age gap, and maybe it's my sensibility, and I don't know. I like to say that I'm, you know, edgy, and Robert Altman, man, I do not click with him. I don't know.
I want to
what it
so
is.
bad, but I'm with you because
it's something about this movie rubbed me the wrong way.
I really liked this movie, but there are some things holding it back for me. But it's like, yeah, that was my impressions going in. I was like, okay, I've heard this is pretty good. I don't really know much about it. I've heard that it like looks really good visually. The cinematography is interesting, but like, I'm like, okay, Robert Altman, he is pretty well known. I want to watch his other movies like Nashville, but we've watched MASH, and we definitely didn't like it as much as most people. And
no, I didn't.
Even though this was 1,000 times better than MASH, there's still
Barely.
There's still no, dude. This is way better than MASH.
No, it definitely is. Yeah, a lot
but
better. I
probably
would
because
watch
it's a
this
Western.
again.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, Levi, can we take a tea real quick? I have to pee so bad.
You bitch.
I'm not gonna be able to finish it.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'll be right back. Pause at 49. Back in.
Feel better?
Yeah, it was one of those dang, like crossing my legs, trying to be like.
I get
like,
it, dude. You're all good.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
to get
I don't know what it is, man, about Robert Altman, because like, I don't know. I have to watch the rest of his movies because I can't put my finger.
He's smug. He's smug.
Yeah.
So what he's doing with his main character. So like the fact that like this was based off of a novel, and I'm curious. There's a lot of it where I'm like, oh, I feel like the third act was like really rushed. I wonder what compared to the novel. But anyways, regardless of that, that was my favorite part though. Anyways, is the last half. But it's his main character. His main characters are like they just punch down. And in this movie, I like their relationship a lot because Miss Miller stands up to him, and that makes me. I appreciate her, and I appreciate that in him. But I just know, IRL, Robert Altman probably like really abused the women there, and like that's because look, when the research I did for MASH, he was an asshole to everyone, all the women on that set. So I can't imagine this movie where it's all about prostitution and like owning women and like the abuse to women and like the frontier times. That is a part that colors me, and I can't get away from it. And it kind of, I think it's just because it kind of shows up in his films.
I could see it.
And you know what?
But it works.
But
it works better
for this
in this
period,
because not only for the period, but it's just like I don't care if a character is a piece of shit and punches down. It's a character. I don't think it's representative of the filmmakers, but whereas this movie felt like the character, like I actually really loved the character of McCabe. Like I like both the main characters a lot, but I think they were like really good 3-dimensional, flaws and all, right? Obviously, but like whereas this movie was using it as characterization, where something like MASH, it felt like baked into the editing even, and it felt baked into like just like the type of movie being made. So it was like it was no longer about the character, it was about the filmmakers, and I think that was worse in MASH.
Right, it does. It felt like MASH feels like a mouthpeace for sure.
Yeah,
where that's why I'm like this feels like it's
like a more of a character study. But
and so
there were
there's little things that bleed through that I'm like I don't know, man. It just like rubs me the wrong way. But that is clearly personal. So like on like an objective standpoint, like I love the look of this, and I loved the pacing. I mean, and that's why First Cow is like one of my favorite movies ever, is because the pacing's amazing.
The look, we have to spend we're gonna dedicate a chapter right now to. This is one of the best looking movies I've ever seen. I read about it a little bit, that they like pre-exposed the film a little bit before they shot, and like cool. It's called flashing, and they did it on the hush because the studios were like way against it, but they were trying the cinematographer and Altman were trying to create like a unique look, which they did, because this movie is so buttery soft, dude. It's so soft focused.
Well,
it
reminds me of like
and
reminds me of,
grainy
like,
in just the right way, man. Like it's
just
so
the right
good.
way. It's a Barry Lyndon type of
Yeah,
film.
dude, it's-
It looks so natural.
Dude, I
And
do
that-
feel like there was a certain like just pile of film, like actual celluloid in the 70s
I
that
know.
like someone had access to, and that was like the cream of the crop, sold their soul to the devil quality
Well, no,
of
I feel
film.
like it's like Charlie Chaplin like died and his corpse decomposed onto this film and it just made it
But
perfect, like the
this-
heart of like.
When I think of like 70s aesthetic, I'm gonna think about this movie now, except for in a period piece type of vibe. But like,
Right.
because it's like there's so much like natural light too. Like, it's so good.
Yeah, and
this
it's cool because
movie
this
just looks
is
so
movie
good.
was filmed. This movie was filmed chronologically, and
Cool.
so it totally shows with the town.
They have to
being
because they
built.
literally are building
Like
the
it-
town in the movie.
No, they're building the town in this movie as the movie, but also as the set. It's like legitimately them building it from like the ground up.
that's-
and that's a part that like, and it's cool because they tried to build it as authentic as possible. Like that steam engine wagon that comes through that actually powered the sawmill that they used to like
Cool.
build
Oh, I
the
love that.
sets, dude. Isn't that
Yeah,
like,
that's way
where
cool.
that's where I'm like God,
That's
you
the
can't- I mean,
spirit,
you're-
baby. That's the spirit of the
that's
West.
Right, that is, and that's
It-
just like that's good filmmaking, you know.
Yeah.
that's
Well, like it's like the vibe because this movie's so reliant on the atmosphere in the town as well. But like, not to rag on 310. I mean, we did enough of that kind of. But it's like it is like very much city planned. Like here's the main street. It's a plan of the city. This like definitely felt like a lot of frontier towns where it started as a camp. And it just kind of kept growing, and it's like
And
really
I like-
weird around. Like they built that
used
main
that.
bridge that goes across that little pond. It's just because they don't want to walk around the pond because it's annoying. So they built a bridge to the main other infrastructure.
well, that's the thing. Yeah, and it's exactly the main. So it's like a main infrastructure. Then they built a bridge to the other main infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then kind of the settlement. Like that's what I loved at the end when it does that. Like when he gets into the clock or the chapel and he's up in the bell tower and you can see that like really slow pan across the whole like camp and town.
And you can see
essentially
how
now,
much has grown
'cause it's
because
a
in
town,
the opening
and
credits
it's
they're
grown a
walking
lot.
past all the like piles of logs. You know, like-
And all the plotted out areas and stuff. And I love like this movie does kind of what First Cow does really well, where it's like the town is on the peripheral, but there's just enough of just conversations and then some certain shots, and it's like just enough that it really builds the town where that last shot of him panning is really impactful. There's barely any characters in it, and nothing is said, but that's good filmmaking. That it really is showing me what is happening in this town, and that's something I like. I think I will remember this movie a lot fonder. Like while I was watching it, I was not. I don't know, man. Maybe it's my headspace or something, but it's just something about it where I think, and another thing though, technically, the sound was awful, and that actually was. I was reading about that. Did you hear? He blamed his sound. The sound engineer was he was fucking up the whole time with it, and then Robert Altman was like, "No, it was the sound engineer's fault." It's just kind of those things where it's that's where I'm like, Robert Altman's character sucks, but
yeah,
it's like
I think that's smugness too, because I think that is a quality of Robert Altman that I like is that he has especially for the time period you really didn't get this, but a more naturalistic on-set sounds, and the dialogue is people are talking over each other. There's you hear more of the background. But it's this is just just a step too far, just a bit too much.
It's so
I like it, and
mumbly.
some scenes it really works to add to the naturalistic nature of it. But some scenes it's just I had to actually change what I was viewing it on because I couldn't get subtitles on my first one, so I was like, I need
know.
subtitles, and
Yes.
so I switched to watching it on the
literally-
Plex instead.
I was sitting 3 feet, or not even 3 feet. I was 8 inches away from the TV because I was sitting in the chair and just leaning forward with the volume up, being oh my god, because I couldn't get the subtitles to work, and so I was
But
it's okay.
It's fine. You don't need to because
it's
it's
fine.
there's a lot of McCabe is in his character too. He's drunkenly mumbling to himself a lot.
I know, yeah.
And so it works. He's just kind of bitching and complaining, especially when he's drunk and alone. And so it worked. I think that this is not the kind of movie where it's the dial. You need to hear every bit of dialogue because every piece of dialogue drives the story
I disagree,
forward.
though. I think that all the dialogue. I mean, yeah, right. To drive the whole plot, the overarching plot, they do a good job at just kind of like, you really could watch this in silently. Like it does, it shows really well how it develops and stuff.
Yeah.
But there are like so many interesting tit for tats that
good
I really appreciated.
Yeah, a little good character moments.
and between a bunch of people, I mean, not even just the main two characters. Like
dude, the
all
bartender
the
talking with the other guy about trying
God,
to
his
trim
beard.
how he wants to trim his facial hair.
Dude, when he that is one of my favorite bits in this whole movie is he changes it and he goes, look at this, and the guy goes, I don't care or whatever. Like he doesn't even notice. You know, he doesn't.
And
Yeah,
he's like,
doesn't
he's
care.
so sad about
And-
it.
Right. And he's so proud of it, and it's a great mustache too. It's like, God,
it's
that's
killer.
That's some damn good facial hair. Yeah.
I,
But anyways, it's like that is the thing where I'm like, it reminds me of like I was thinking of Wes Anderson a lot during this.
Okay.
With the dialogue.
Yeah.
Where it is kind of like they're just talking each other, and it's kind of normal and plain, and there's nothing like that fancy, but it really does build the world, and I like it because like the conversations that you can really understand that are between them, it's like those are fine. Those just carry the plot, and I don't really, they're important. But it's the little things like when they're eating. When she comes in and she's like, "I'm hungry. I could eat a horse," and he's like, "Okay, let's go here. I'll take
he's
you
like,
here if
you know,
like,
you might actually have to eat a horse," and she's like, "Cute.
Yeah,
let's go." Like,
right. And like she doesn't really care, which is kind of cool. She's like the manic pixie dream girl that we get
kind of.
we get like 50 years later. But
she's my opium addicted honey.
I know exactly, dude. Like I love her hair is wrecked, and she just when she's eating that slop, dude, I was like, this is great. This is like,
yeah, man. Like I don't know what it is. It's like I really actually loved McCabe as a character a lot too, and just because it's like dialogue too, and like he the more I think about it, like the more like because he says a lot of like weird quips under his breath, like he keeps saying like like. If a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump its ass so much, and it's like, and then like he kept being like every time somebody's bugging him, he's like, "Well, you got a turd in your pocket?" Or like,
oh yeah,
but
that was right. Then he does. It's good for his character. He's really disarming.
But he repeats it that it's like that's like his mechanism too. Like he repeats the same stuff. Like I really like the subtleties of like he's seen as like this like businessman, and like he's kind of like puffs himself up. He's wearing a tux, but and I think that's why he ended up falling in love with Constantine, because she immediately was like blunt with him and was like, "Hey, that cheap cologne that you're wearing is not fooling anyone." And that's kind of like his personality. It's great because it's like I said earlier, I don't think he knows what he wants, and like part of him wants to like get out because he does not a big leader businessman. Like he just listens to his lawyer and he gets kind of confused by it, and he repeats what other people say, like talking points, like he just does what he's got to do to get along. I don't know. I really liked him a lot, and the acting of him too.
There's not in a negative way, but like he does have kind of he is like pretentious, but he also but I think it like
he's not super bright, but he's like self-conscious about it too. You know what I mean? A little bit.
That's what it is. Self-conscious.
He hides it in a way that makes him sort of like he's charming and like, oh, I want to play poker and have drinks with him kind of way, but also like I don't know. He has a vulnerability to him that I like, that it is like his like, and especially when he's vulnerable with her, like he just is, he sleeps with her and like she's like, okay, put the money on the stand, because it's like this is business, but like, I like you, we're friends, we're business partners, but he's like, you're the only person I've ever wanted to like, I've never felt like I want to be around you actually,
Yeah, and he's like, he's like maybe one time we can do this without like a transaction,
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of his, and that's his vulnerability. That's when he tries to like put himself out there, and it's like.
That's what makes the ending so sad too, dude. Like the ending is
really,
so sad.
And Leonard Cohen is like, he's a sad boy too. So it's like
I gotta
all of his music.
We'll talk about the music.
I don't know. Yeah, we can get in the score in a minute, but that ending is tragic because they aren't together, and it's kind of weird because it's like I didn't really know what to expect with this movie. Obviously, first time seeing it, and like, and even it laying it out, like she doesn't come in till the first 30 minutes at least.
Something like that,
and so like, and when she comes in, they have they kind of like they immediately talk to each other, and she knows like he's kind of like whatever, the purveyor of the town. He's a mayor and an owner, and whatever it's kind of weird because like that's the one part I didn't quite know how he got that. Like it must have been slow, but how the movie kind of
It's because
progressed,
it's like a
didn't really
camp.
matter.
Like even the other guy in the hotel is like literally like, we're the only two people of authority here, essentially. You know what I mean? Like there's no law really, because it is like a lot of these places they just like Deadwood, like just like Deadwood, where it's like it started as a camp.
It was 1906 too. That
weird.
was I thought that.
Well,
I, thought that was
I knew it had to be a
interesting.
little bit later because the steam machine or whatever, you know.
Right.
But yeah. I don't know. That
I think, or no, or 1806. No, I can't remember. They have a gravestone when they're burying the guy. Yeah, they're burying the guy, and it says like his age, you know. But anyways, I was getting at that the tragedy of him dying without her, but like they do like it's actually like kind of nice because like he's just in the snow and the music, and it's like she is kind of like she's thinking about him, and they do a good job at showing that. Even though, I mean, this is just me. Like, this is my
I think so, though, too, though. Like, it's like...
But, I mean, it's...
The only time you see the same kind of dopey smile on her face when she's all fucked up in bed with him. It's like, she's happy because she's high, but she's also happy because she's with him. Like, she obviously also likes him, but she's not going to, like, you know, she's not going to say... she's tough.
Yeah, she's tough. And I do think... I think she's, you know, she's embarrassed by her opium addiction, and so I don't think she wants to get as close. But dude, did you know that snow? This is my
just asbestos.
No, it is 100% natural.
Nice.
They had a freak blizzard, and so they shot that sequence over 9 days because the snow just kept coming. They were scheduled to shoot. They didn't know there was going to be a blizzard, and it just kept coming. It snowed like 12 feet there.
It's intense because he does when it's like he just dies like kneeling in the snow, and then just like it just covers him. Like it just like in real time, it just mounds over him. Like I'm like that had to be real because that's great.
It was all real. Yeah, and that was beautiful too. Like, and they do a good job at shooting around it too. Like it just and how it comes down and like it's crazy to see like real snow coming down.
I almost
too.
forgot to mention it. I almost forgot to mention it because like maybe I'm crazy because there are scenes during that shootout that are 100%. Obviously, most of them are real snow, but. Did you notice that it seemed like I don't know how they did it or if I'm losing crazy, but there was definitely like a in the foreground like almost fake snow effect. Not fake, but like
that's what
they shot
real
snow.
Looks. No, that's what real snow looks like, dude. That's what I'm saying. It's weird.
Really, it looks so weird sometimes.
movie snow looks so perfect.
Yeah,
you know that when it comes down. But like real snow, it's kind of hard to see. The camera doesn't catch it because it's faster and it comes, you know, and it'll come down in a different angle.
It looks so weird to me sometimes. Like some shots,
no,
I'm
I know
like,
what you're
how
saying.
did they
it does,
like?
it
I'm like,
almost
did they
looks like
add
a
it
screen or something?
That's what I was almost like. Did they film snow and then
dude.
like really develop it thinly and just kind of lay it over to like make it match continuity? Because I'm like, I know how they would do it nowadays, but I'm like, I don't know how they do it in 1971.
I mean, maybe for like there's like two shots I can think of that you're talking about.
I got to go back and watch because I can't tell.
I think it's just that the extreme close up or the extreme like zoom that they do for that, you know, and it's like it keeps panning across the city.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's probably that, but I know that it was all 100% real snow, so
that's cool.
But but maybe they did do like a double exposure, so
they might have. Yeah, I think they might have in maybe a couple spots, like if they had to do continuity or stuff for some of it. Like, especially when they were putting out the fire. So the other thing, I'm torn. It's like a coin toss, 50-50 about Leonard Cohen, right? Sometimes it worked really well. Sometimes it hit great. But then other times I'm like, just don't right now. Like, just don't. Like, if you're going to
agree.
I would rather you do nothing if you're not going to do something else because it's like, it kind of ruined the tension sometimes.
Dude,
it is
always
a
bold choice to have lyrical heavy music playing over your like it kind of because you
like contemporary folk music. Like we talked a little bit about it in you know, Butch Cassidy a little bit, but it's like that's the entire score in this. You know, it's like it's cool. It is really cool, and it is. That's another Altman thing that feels like where like that's a big bold move. You know what I mean? For this kind of movie, it's not like it's just one dude and a guitar pretty much is the whole score. And it's not like orchestral. And it's definitely not like just count by numbers, just hire something to do just some basic Western score, which he easily could have done. And so I think it works in its benefit, but there are scenes where it's just like the first scene when that one really nervous prostitute that disappears after that scene stabs that guy. And then the music comes up and it's like, and she's just like stabbing this guy. And I'm like,
it's literally
it's
the
not
music's
working.
like
Just
music's
no
like-
music.
No, and the music's like, she lost her mind and stabbed that guy. Like it's weird how the lyrics, but it's not. It's like more. It's a lot more like new or not nuanced even necessarily, but it's more just like it's like the songs that he wrote were about like
Lyrical.
you know lyrically like a vicious breakup or something in his life, you know, and it like and then watching it, it's like the things he's saying are kind of like what's happening, and so it works really well for me, and I like that. But it almost is like a weird needle drop where like I'm like it's like you're singing what's happening almost in the scene, and so it does. I know what you're saying. It was like a weird like juxtaposition.
Like it
of
feels
just having Western scores that we're familiar with, and then like and then having like a contemporary score.
It feels like like ruminating and like contemplative, like in those slow moments when like because there is a lot of moments of this just like the preacher climbing on top of the church to like put in during the sunset and like them
the opening is
walking
great,
in town or just spending time together casually. But it's like certain scenes of like quote unquote action, which there's not a lot of. When they have that, it's weird because it stood out to me because during the climax, like the last 20 minutes or so, the quote unquote chase through the town, there's like almost no music. It's like them slinking around, the fire's going on, the town's starting to panic that way, and you're not thinking about like I didn't even think about where Miss Miller was until it cut to her at the end. She's just disappeared because she's out getting high. You know what I mean? But like he's slinking around, he shoots these guys, he's laying in ambush. Like that felt tense, dude. And this whole movie was kind of building up to it too. Like just like the threat of violence is just slowly ekes its way in. Because unlike 310, to shit on it somewhere. When the violence happens near the end and that guy's like, hey, let me see your gun, maybe I can fix it for you, and then shoots him. Everyone else in town, like anytime anyone, even a dude just walks up with a rifle, everyone's like 2/3 of the people are like peace. Like nobody wants.
I mean, that's great.
Anything
when they're jigging
that
out
feels
on the ice,
real. Like they're like,
and, like,
oh, let's go. Yeah.
It's
like they don't want anything to do with it, and that feels real. You know what I mean? Where it's just like most people just want to avoid that, especially in a town that's like a quote unquote town that's so lawless. You know what I mean? It's just like I just want to get drunk. I want to work in the mine, and I want to just get some good prostitutes, like, just live that life, and I don't want anything to do with this business, this violence and such. So.
Yeah. I love that, like, it's edited perfectly between him slinking through the town and then the fire raging on.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it draws, like, everybody away from him, and it's like the town actually comes together, and so it's kind of cool to see, like, the town succeed as a town, and to be like, putting the fire out and using technology and like coming together, and then the celebration that happens, and then you have like basically the creator, the founder of the town, being like just his demise.
It's like hunted. He's being hunted. Like
he's being hunted. Right. And like and metaphorically too, it's like he was like egging on the people who like basically like almost the mouths that feed or whatever the hands that feed basically. Like he, it's like it's like a larger, more sophisticated and like actually like, probably government funded. I actually do think they do talk about that where it's
some
like
ultra capitalistic venture though. You know what I mean?
Super capitalistic coming and killing this like small town person who kind of like,
that's what's good because it's like there's the talk, the ideology of the lawyer. But it's just like that just doesn't work. Like that sounds nice and dandy coming out of your mouth and your silver tongue, but like in the real world,
we're still in a time period where you get shot. Like that's like, so it's like if you're dead, you're dead in the snow.
The deaths were so brutal and real because it's like there weren't the two bad guys that got shot. It wasn't super epic. Like the one guy, he literally just followed the blood trail and he was dead in the snow. And McCabe's bleeding out, but like when the first gunshot, when the main bad guy, the fucking mustachioed dude, comes in and shoots the preacher. He no arm. Country for old men's that guy. Like it just like shotguns his arm off, and
dude,
and starts the fire right. Which it's kind of interesting that it's just like you don't really think about the Reverend, but like based on the 2 interactions that the Reverend has with McCabe, that it's just like you wouldn't think he's going to be antagonistic towards him, but it makes sense that he is at the end. You know what I mean? Because it's like obviously he's the man of God and he's trying to do this church and
I love that's the thing about this. Like, it's nice. I'm glad that we actually got to talk about this because I just had such a bad taste in my mouth. And now that we talk about this, I'm like, okay, there's some deeper, and maybe even coming off of 310 too helps. Where like 310 has like absolutely zero subtext. Where this movie is like it's beautiful when he comes into the church and it's just it's a mess. It's uninhabitable. You know that this town has never stepped foot. There's no pews.
Right.
There's no one has ever gone to church in this town. And it's almost like the preacher he's built so much
church was
resentment.
built before the bathhouse.
100%. Yeah, the church was like the first thing that goes up. That's like the whole symbolism of the cross going up, and then it's like, but then nobody has gone. It's just empty, or well, it's crowded. It's even worse because it's like he's
under
lost
construction.
His mind
Yeah, it's just
in
like,
there. Yeah,
in there, but just like no rhyme or reason.
And they actually shoot that pretty well too when they come in, and it's just like it shows like a one pile, and it kind of like
it like whips like his eyes like where he's gonna go.
Yeah.
That's good.
And like that's great. And like he tries to use it as like a safe place, but the preacher's like, no, this isn't for you.
Takes
like,
his gun even,
So that's cool.
Brutal.
Oh, right. Yeah, he does. Yeah.
Well,
but
like the violence.
That's fun, but
because even when he domes, because it's like I like there's like the rumor. You never know if it's true or not. They talk like there's enough details that there's something true about McCabe killing that guy with the Derringer. And then, so at the end, when he's been shot in the back, he's been shot like 3 times at this point, and he's definitely dying. And the guy comes up to him and rolls him over, and he Inglorious Bastards him, right? Where he's got the gun when he gets rolled over, and just domes him immediately in the forehead with it.
Right. Like perfect bullseye.
The frozen way his body just slumps down. I love, like his whole body, he just stiffens with it and then dies with his body all stiff.
Yeah.
But like that adds something to like, who about McCabe's past, like, it's like, how much truth is there to these rumors about him? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, that's what I like about him,
what kind of
too,
man is he, and like, was he? Like, he I feels like he's trying to be someone else. Like, he's trying to turn a new leaf, but he maybe never was, like, a good criminal. In that way, he was definitely more of, like, a kind of a con man, and more of, like, he's obviously, like, in any other movie, he would definitely, because he's not a hero, you know what I mean? But he's the protagonist. But he's a pimp and like a gambler that like is basically just taking advantage of this town.
God, dude. Deadwood. people go out there. If you liked this movie, you gotta watch Deadwood because Deadwood's great. It's the same thing. He's like he runs like a gambling house and a prostitution, but he's like Swearingen's like the cheaper. He basically is his archetype because it's like he's like the cheaper one that's kind of trying to do it himself, and he was there first. And then and you do have the slicker guy coming into town. It's great. Yeah, I do. I like that. Yeah. Talking about this, it's like
I really like
coming
this.
around to it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's just I'm like I need to put my Robert Altman.
I want to watch. That's the thing. It's like I heard that some of his movies are like some of the best, right? And I did really like this movie, but I think it is missing a little something.
Yeah.
But I really, really enjoyed this movie. But I want to watch his other movies because I'm like, you're right. There's something there. That
I think it's him.
It doesn't sit.
His movies, like it's like I've seen, like what he's done is like I liked it, and it does do something.
Well,
There's like it's weird. It feels youthful for that time, but it's like it feels really dated now because of the music and everything, But like
it feels very boomer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it does, big time. Yeah, but he was a teenager, or he was probably in his 20s at this time or something, Like so it's like I get it. He's making something that like resonates with him,
cool.
and so I appreciate that for sure.
It's
but I think it is like it's like the things that he does that I like, other filmmakers have done, and it's just like film itself. Like it's like, and he kind of gets the benefit of the doubt for being like from the 70s. But I mean, I don't know. MASH didn't look great, so it's like that. I don't know how this movie looked better. Like the film stock and the, like how it was filmed. It's this is actually so much better.
But it was filmed kind of similar. But I think it's like the genre and the context of trying to make like more of a because like this movie wasn't like so heavy, but it's definitely like a dramatic Western, more like that kind of vibe where it's like MASH was trying to do this weird juxtaposition thing that did work. That's like the best thing about MASH. It's like the one good thing about MASH is that it's like, they're a bunch of jokers, but they're also, war and all that. But
yeah, no, I know. I mean,
but you said it right, where it's like there is a smugness that it's different. Where it's like, like Terrence Malick, for example. I like his movies, but he's pretentious, which is like, but he's not smug, which it's like, smugness is like pretentious. Pretentiousness is like grosser little brother that just like peeps on women or something. You know what I mean? Like,
smug is like definitely trying to use a stick to look up a girl's skirt and like thinking they get away with it. And it's like, I don't know. That's the thing about him. That's
but
just like,
for all I know, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and slander Robert Altman like you because I don't know. I did. That's what I know from MASH, right?
That's the thing. I'm like, it's not like he did MASH and that was the one movie where he was bad. So
yeah, no, exactly. It does kind of come through. You know what I mean? It's got this like this
that's
big-headedness to it almost.
Yeah, like it seeps through, and it's like that's the thing. He is a competent director in that sense. Like
I think he's quite good for like doing, because we've talked about like film history before. It's like I think he's really good for like the transition into the 70s. Like he's a big prominent figure of like what the 70s style would become, where it's like a little bit more avant-garde, like a little bit more like the way that the audio is recorded, the way that it's edited, it's like a little bit looser, it's a little bit edgier, and it's like youthful. Like some of the guys in this, like the extras, just definitely, I heard that I read that like Draft Dodgers built the sets.
And it literally like
they look like 1969 kids. Like,
well, it's Draft Dodgers, and they actually, God, I wish I don't have the exact number. I can't remember. It's like 100 of the extras got to build their own backstory.
Oh, cool.
So they created like, and those are one of those fun things where I'm like, that's fun about film, where they get to, they got to go to the woods, and they were like, they got to pick what job they wanted to do and kind of flush that out. And so like, that's one thing that like,
that's fun.
Robert Altman, like he does have some camaraderie with his like crew and his extras and stuff. So, but in MASH, it's cruel. So that's why I'm like,
we're in the minority of MASH. Like it's our second. I know. It's our second most watched one. So.
Oh, serious? My gosh. Well, yeah, great. I mean, I don't know. It's cool. Yeah.
I don't know why exactly. It's not like we have. It's probably because we don't like it. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway.
Still.
Yeah, anyway. As McCabe and Miller, I don't have much else to say about this. I actually really like this movie. I think I liked it just a little bit less. I liked it less than... I'll probably give it 4 stars. I liked it a lot, but I liked it less than The Great Silence. But I will watch this again one day.
4 stars? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. Now, after talking about it, it's definitely gone
You're
up
over
more.
here imagining, you're like, I don't like it because Robert Altman raped women on set, and it's like, you don't know that.
Well, no, I know. No, I'm not even imagining that. It's the, that's what I'm saying. Like, outside of having my own, like, bias, there is a smugness to the characters.
Yeah. Well,
it's like, it's borderline charm, but it's like, it's still.
Yeah. Well, I like a smug character if they're well written, which I think that the leads at least are. Yeah.
Right. Sure.
So speaking of Shelley Duvall, I mean, we didn't mention it much, but Shelley Duvall, I thought she was going to have a way bigger role.
Me too. Apparently she must not have been big at this time. When did this come out? 71?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's. Oh no! She's just getting started. Never mind.
Yeah.
She's not big yet. Yeah, I saw her too, and I expected her to have like a speaking role.
It's because we knew her barely.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I like that it kind of didn't really go anywhere because it's like that feels real, but it's just like an interesting subplot where it's like she's like the mail and order bride, and then her husband dies, like kind of quote unquote defending her honor, and then she actually like because somebody asks if she's a prostitute, and he dies. And then she does become a prostitute because it's like she has no one there, like just does it.
And it shows like it's also like what Miss
Miller
wants
and she
to do
kind of
too.
like seems fine with it. Like she at the end is like flirting it up, like and actually seems to really like that one guy with the little dick that they're all making fun of. That I was sad
yeah.
because I kind of liked him, but he got shot for no reason.
For no reason. No, that was like the only thing where I'm like, he's a book character, I'm sure, that has a few more scenes or is fleshed out a little bit more, because I was really confused by his character, but it doesn't take me out.
Especially because it shows like McCabe when that character first shows up, McCabe's like kind of getting paranoid, you know?
Yeah,
about like
yeah.
he's like, these guys left and now they're like maybe coming around for me and like being weird about it. And so like this guy shows up, he's like, what do you want? What are you doing? You know, because he's I think that's why it's like he's definitely has that history of violence. Because like when people like follow him, he's like, wait, where are you going? You know what I mean? And this guy's like, no, I just heard you guys have the best whorehouse in the territory. And he's like,
I know,
well,
right?
I'm your guy. Let me show you. That's my whorehouse, baby.
Yeah. But
then I was like, maybe he is there to kill him. Like I could see him being the smiling guy, but then the other dude is just cruel.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for him to be like a quick, actually be a quick draw himself. But anyways, it doesn't. Yeah, that's more of a traditional Western.
Yeah, that was the subversion. I was waiting
right
for that. But yeah, like anti-Western, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, this movie's cool.
Did we get any Reddits?
Oh, I bet we did. I actually haven't even read it, but I think Clones Are People.
The Money Minute's weird. I couldn't get a production value side, but it said at box office 8 million. So
okay, I bet you. I mean, it feels very DIY. So it's like I bet you.
Yeah.
It was probably made for a couple million. 5 tops.
I say 5 though. I say 5.
Just because all the lumber.
Because they built it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they built the town. Yeah. So it's
exactly.
like that's
Sets alone. I got one. I haven't read it yet, so let's see. Clones Are People 2 says, first watch. I heard this before, but had never really interested me. Just after watching this, and I really like it. It felt very much like a cozy film, and the final act had me hooked. I was not expecting such a slow burn and character-driven drama. I love Leonard Cohen, and his music perfectly complemented the tone of the film. It's subtle and poetic. That's a good way to put it. McCabe is a very interesting character. He's introduced as a danger, and we hear rumors of him murdering someone. But as the film progresses, all that is shed, and we find out he is essentially a shy and damaged man. There is a real irony in that he is a professional gambler, and his downfall comes, and the only actual gamble we see where he completely overplays his hand. Oh, yeah. That's a good insight.
Well put.
Yeah, that's a good
totally.
insight, right? It's like he learns, because he goes back and he's like, woo, I was like sweating on the inside, but
yeah.
He's like, I told him to come back for more. Anyway, he's like, I didn't even flinch. The scene with him and Archer, the man with the big gun, at the table was dripping with tension, and the final shootout was really well done. I was at the stage where I was wondering if I would see any guns in this Western, and it delivered. Overall, 7 out of 10. I'm mixed on Altman as a director, but I think I need to see another one before I make up my mind. 100%.
Same.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite line from this whole movie is when he says he's trying to talk himself up, and he wants to be with Miss Miller, and he's like, I'm poetic. I just don't put it to paper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that
That's
sums
good.
up his character really well.
Yeah.
It's like, he's a slick talker, but he just doesn't really write things out. And they kind of touch on that too with the math, where she's like grilling him on math, and he's like, it just takes me a while to get it done.
He's like, and I don't need to when I'm there. I know, because he's like, I got the instinct for it, right?
Yeah, the instinct, right? And that's.
But like as Clones of People too said, that's a really good way to put it. It's where it's like he was messing with those guys and it blew up in his face and got him killed.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like he kind of didn't even realize it. Kind of came around,
Well, and it's the first time that he ever deals with someone who's above him, like that. That's what quote
at least in
unquote,
the movie,
above him.
seemingly, right?
It's
Like more authoritative.
Like we're introduced to his character coming into some just drunken miners who he's kind of swindling at his gambling, and then that's how he builds his empire. And so it's like it is kind of interesting to see him go against that. It's like, yeah, he kind of is like an anti-hero almost, honestly.
Yeah.
But he's got charm, so
I like him.
Anyways,
I like it. So that's a cool movie. I'll probably watch it in wintery. Yeah, it is cozy. So
yeah,
this always happens because the same thing happened with First Cow, where I'm like, it puts me in a mood to watch something like this, because we definitely did do a cozy month last year after First Cow.
Oh yeah, we did. I know, dude. First Cow was.
I'm gonna watch it again soon. I think it's time.
I can't
see if my wife will
really
watch it and just chill and watch it. So.
It's been a year, so may as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, thanks for hanging in there. Sorry this was late. We don't know for sure what we're gonna do next month. for movies wise. Our lives have been kind of crazy lately, so we're a little off schedule and a little off track.
And they're gonna wind down for the holidays, like they always
yeah,
do.
they
right?
always get easier.
They always get easier in December.
All right, well, I think that's enough. Goodbye now.
Hey.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.